Ruddy is a chubby and ugly introvert who is reincarnated in the body of a baby in a strange world. He is born with unlimited potential in magic, but God had to nerf him and give him erectile dysfunction. The story starts with the cops rushing to the scene. They discover a huge fat dude's body who was hit by a truck. The fat slob is taken to the hospital. The chunky dude begins to feel like he is losing consciousness. The man suddenly opens his eyes, and he sees 3 people in a room. As they look at him, he notices that the dude and girl in front of him are speaking in a different language. The woman in front of him looks smockin' hot, and he immediately sees that her jugs are massive. Then he tells himself that he would totally cop a feel to check them out. As he tries to touch her giant boobs, he realizes that his hands are no match for this work of art. The young man suddenly discovers that he is reincarnated into a little baby body and gets to know that the names of the dude and lady are James and Lily, and they are his parents. He also begins to get mad jealous of the couple as he did not have what they had in his past life, but he consoles himself that he had Lily's huge pair of balls to himself. Lily and James name their baby Ruddius, and they call him Ruddy for short. While Ruddy grows older, he is able to understand the language and also get to know about his parents. Ruddy goes to the kitchen to meet the maid, Lilia, and he takes a piece of her underwear that she had set aside for laundry and wears it on his face. But when she sees him, his mom, Lily, immediately picks him up and tells him not to wander around. While looking out the window, Ruddy tells himself that he is in Europe, but he suddenly sees his dad, James, practicing his sword skills. He tells himself that his parents are total nerds. He suddenly falls down and hits his head on the floor, and Lily immediately goes to pick him up. She immediately uses her magic powers to heal him so that he doesn't feel any pain. Ruddy realizes that he is in another world where sorcery and swordsmanship are highly regarded. While growing up, he sees some books in the house and begins to read them. He discovers that the books are about magic and how to use them. He begins to read the books and try the magical powers and spells, and he discovers that he is able to use magic. Ruddy continues to practice magic without his parents' knowledge, and on a lucky day he tries a spell. The effect of the spell causes a huge explosion, but when his parents come to check, they see that he has been practicing magic. Ruddy's parents decide to get him a magic tutor, and when the tutor arrives, they see that she's just a clueless-looking little girl who should probably be spending her time watching cartoons. However, after training Ruddy for a day, she realizes that he has mad potential. After Ruddy's first magic training, his parents throw a welcome party for his tutor, Roxy, and he begins to tell himself that he would make sure he makes it big in his new world. Ruddy begins to play with some dolls in the evening, and he suddenly gets a flashback of the accident he got involved in. Then he gets himself together and begins to hear the sounds his parents are making as they are working out. Ruddy makes light of it and tells himself that he is hopping for his parents to give him a little sister, as he is already tired of little brothers. This is due to how his brothers in his past life beat the crap out of him and threw him to the streets where he died hours later. He tells himself that he would go and mess with his parents as he would go to their room and ask them what they are doing, as he wants to hear the funny excuses they would give him. He suddenly sees Roxy, who is feeling uncomfortable due to the noises coming out of his parents' room. Then he goes back to his room and tells himself that he doesn't blame Roxy as she is just growing up. After the 6 months of training that Roxy has used in training Ruddy, he is able to use magic up to the intermediate level. During their night classes, Roxy begins to read some magic books to Ruddy, but Ruddy is distracted as he bends over to look at Roxy's floodgate. Roxy finishes the book, and Ruddy asks her a question as he tells himself that it is a tough life of being a kid again. Then Roxy tells Ruddy that she is a demon, which is the reason why his parents were surprised to see her because of her hair color. Roxy also explains to Ruddy the story she was told about demons, and she adds that he should not go near anyone with green hair and a red gem on their forehead as his family would be killed. Ruddy tells Roxy that he has heard what she said, and she mentions that she doesn't like her hair color because, in the wrong lighting, it can look green. Ruddy compliments Roxy's hair, and she tells him to save the line for a girl he likes, and he immediately tells her that he likes her. But she tells him to tell her if he still feels the same way 10 years later. Ruddy leaves the room, but shortly after he tries to peek. After a year of training with Roxy, Ruddy gets strong with his magical powers, but he is still having a hard time learning the swordsmanship skills from his dad. While watching the field, some kids are playing on the field and Ruddy looks at them. They remind him of a humiliation he had faced when he was in high school in his former world. Roxy tells Ruddy of a university of magic called the Ronal University of Magic. Then she also adds that he should try to go to the school if he wants to pursue the path of magic. Ruddy learns that birthdays are celebrated every 5 years in his new world, and his family throws a party for him on his 5th birthday. James gives him a huge sword, and his mom gives him a book, while Roxy gives him a magic stone. She announces to him that she would hold his graduation exam the following day. That night, Ruddy begins to think of what had happened to him in his previous life, which has made him chicken out at the thought of taking a huge step in his life. The following day, Roxy takes Ruddy to a spot that would be good for his final examination. After showing him the spell, Ruddy does his own, and she sees that it has bigger effects than hers. She congratulates him on being a saintly level wearer mage, which is a high rank in magic. Back at home, Roxy packs her luggage as she prepares to leave the town after completing her work, and Lily and James begin to persuade her to stay, but she refuses. She immediately gives Ruddy a charm from her hometown in and leaves. Ruddy thanks her and tells her that he is grateful as she helped him heal this trauma of going outside. This is because he has always been scared of going out, but with Roxy's help, he overcame this. Later on, Lilia sees Roxy's undies in Ruddy's room, and he tells himself that he has been caught for stealing Roxy's panties. After being healed of a childhood trauma, Ruddy takes a few things and goes to meet his parents who are playing outside. He asks them if he can go out to play, and they tell him to go. James carries him on his neck as he tells him to act cool around other people because his powers and strength are to protect the weak. Ruddy goes outside and his parents bid him goodbye. After looking around the village and resting for a while, Ruddy reads his book and he also looks at how beautiful the village is. Then he tells himself that he would forever thank Roxy's holy relic, as she is the one that made him able to go outside and explore. As Ruddy continues to walk, he suddenly sees 3 boys who are throwing stones at someone while they call the person a demon who is supposed to go back to the demon continent. Ruddy hides, and when he sees that the 3 boys would not stop, he comes out like a tall and handsome demigod. He immediately yells at them to stop bullying the person on the floor, but the boys ignore him, and he immediately uses his power to throw water balls at them. The boys all leave as they tell each other that it is no use fighting with Ruddy. Ruddy goes to meet the person, and he finds out that the person is a boy with green hair. When he checks, he sees that his forehead is clear, as Roxy had told him to stay away from anyone that has the description of a super demon. While Ruddy was drawing the boy's hair, he asks him why he is like that, and the boy tells him about how he has a different color of hair than his parents. But Ruddy asks him if he is a demon, and the boy replies that he does not know as his father is a half-elf. He tells Ruddy that his name is Leo, and in return Ruddy tells him that they would be friends. On the other hand, he tells himself that he is sticking with the boy because of his lady's loving appearance, which would attract females in the future. Leo tells Ruddy that he would love to learn magic, and Ruddy offers to teach him. Then later in the evening, they bid each other goodnight. On getting home, James hits Ruddy for injuring Sumo, who is part of the boy bullying Leo. Ruddy tells on what had happened, then James begins to feel bad for himself. While playing with Leo, it suddenly starts raining and Ruddy takes Leo to his house where they both go to take a bath. Ruddy notices that Leo does not want to take his clothes off and Ruddy forcefully removes it. Then he becomes shocked as he notices that Leo is actually a girl. James tells Ruddy to apologize and he apologizes to Leo. James becomes disappointed as he wonders how a product of his sausage could be so dumb. James advises Ruddy on how to make up with Lily, and as he follows his father's advice, Lily forgives Ruddy. James asks himself a few months later and Lily announces that she is pregnant and everyone in the house becomes excited. While the family is having their dinner in a good mood, Lilia also tells him that she is pregnant and everyone becomes shocked. Ruddy begins to ask himself who the father would be, as they know Lilia as someone with no idea of what sausage and rice cakes taste like. James immediately tells her that he is the father. Then he begins to beg Lily, while she and Ruddy are shocked by what he just told them. Lily becomes devastated and she begins to think while everyone else is silent. Then she asks Lilia what she has intended to do with the baby, and Lilia replies that she would go back to her hometown after helping her with her own baby. Ruddy tells himself that he is not ready to let Lilia go, as she had helped him. Then he goes to meet his mom and he convinces her to make Lilia stay. After crying and thinking about Ruddy's feelings regarding the issue, Lily tells Lilia that she would stay as she is part of the family. She also goes to meet James, who is scared of her. Lilia thinks about what she has done as she was the one who seduced James, and she tells herself that she has to repay Ruddy for saving her. A few months later, the Bobbies are born and they are named Norn and Aisha. Lilia then starts talking to Ruddy, and he learns that she had been childhood friends with James, who later developed an intriguing plot with her. Ruddy also discusses with his father and he asks him why he cheated on his wife. Then James tells him that he should understand him as a man, and later James tells Ruddy that he is supposed to go to school and study. Then Ruddy begins to think about school. Leo notices how dull Ruddy is, and when she asks him, he tells her that he is thinking about school. She begins to cry and tells him not to leave her alone. A few days later, Ruddy receives a letter from Roxy as she tells him about where she is and how her new student is like him. Later that night, Ruddy asks his father if he can pay tuition fees for himself, and his father explains to him that they cannot afford it. Ruddy replies to his father that he should get him a job so that he would be able to earn Leo's tuition fee. The following day, James receives a visitor and Ruddy becomes shocked as the person is huge. Soon, Lily comes out and she calls the visitor Giant. Lily begins to tell him that they would miss him. James asks Ruddy if he would be happy if he stayed away by himself, and he denies it. James tells him that he would not bother to explain to him. James suddenly throws Ruddy to the field and they both begin to fight. Ruddy uses his magical powers to avoid attacks from James, but James immediately uses a skill and knocks Ruddy out, taking him into the gates of reincarnation. Ruddy wakes up and sees himself in a carriage while in front of Gain. Then he introduces himself to her and she replies that he is too polite to be James's son. She also adds that he would be be working with her now. Ruddy asks Amelia if his father had told her anything, then she also hands him a letter from James and tells him to read it out loud as she cannot read. Ruddy collects the letter, and he begins to read it as his father writes to him that he has got him a job to go and tutor a 9-year-old young lady in Row. James states further in his letter that he would also learn swordsmanship from Amelia, while she learns magic from him. He adds that he would be teaching a lot to the young lady for the next few years, as he had noticed that he is starting to depend on Leo, which is not good for her. James states at the end of the letter that Ruddy can get along with the young girl, but he should stay away from Amelia. When Amelia hears this, she tells Ruddy to send the letter back to Lily. On getting to the place, Ruddy sees that the place is a huge mansion and the servants are all beast people. But a man comes out, and when Ruddy introduces himself, the man teaches him how to greet like a noble. Then he introduces himself as Philip, who is James's cousin. Immediately, Philip takes Ruddy to go and introduce him to his daughter Aerys, and when they get to her, Ruddy introduces himself and she immediately yells that he is younger than her. Ruddy tells her he knows more than her, and immediately she crashes her hand on his cheeks. Ruddy returns the slap by also slapping her, but she immediately punches him in the face while the elders watch them. Aerys begins to beat Ruddy up, but he immediately pushes her away with his magic. Then he runs away as she chases him, yelling to beat him up. After dealing with Aerys, Ruddy goes back to meet Philip, and Philip asks him if he is going to give up, but Ruddy tells him that he would not give up, as he has a plan to win her over. Ruddy then suggests a plan to make Aerys want to study, then Philip tells him that he would make sure he helps. Ruddy wakes up and sees that he and Aerys are taken to a place where he would be able to teach Aerys that it is good to study. He also realizes that Aerys is awake, then he tells her that if she had studied, she would be able to release herself with magic. A man suddenly comes in, and he begins to beat up Aerys and also punches Ruddy. Ruddy begins to tell himself that the man is a good actor, and he is already overacting as he beats up Aerys to the point that she is bleeding. As the man leaves, Ruddy heals Aerys, and he realizes that the men are not acting like actors that they are supposed to be. Then he begins to look for how he would escape. Aerys tells him to help her as he has not healed her completely. Ruddy finds a way out, and he makes sure Aerys promises him not to be violent to him before he could escape with her. After escaping, Ruddy heals Aerys, and when she feels better, she goes back on her promise, but she immediately runs to meet Ruddy. When she hears the voice of their kidnappers, Ruddy and Aerys find their way back to Row. While they're walking back home, Aerys is reminded of the bitter taste of being abducted. Ruddy runs after her as she is being carried away. Ruddy steps in, and he begins to use his powers against the men. One of the men uses a sword technique against Ruddy and Aerys. Just then, Amelia comes to help them. She swiftly kills all the kidnappers in one slash. Back at home, Ruddy thinks he has failed, but Aerys tells him that she has accepted him, and she also gives him permission to call her by her name. Ruddy is excited that he has landed his first ever job. The following day, Ruddy goes to meet Philip, and he immediately apologizes for what happened the previous night as it was all his fault. A woman comes in and Philip introduces Ruddy to her. Ruddy immediately figures that she must be Philip's wife. She ignores him when he greets her, and he immediately tells himself that she does not like him. Another man comes, and as Ruddy greets him, the man tells Ruddy that he is too polite to be James's son. Then Philip also introduces the man as Sorrow, who is his father and also the leader of Fida. Sorrow beats up Philip for not thanking Ruddy for saving his daughter, and he also calls Ruddy and tells him that he should teach Aerys magic. But Ruddy realizes that Aerys skips her bad character from Assures, as she must have watched him and imitated him while growing up. Then he tells Sorrow that he thinks Aerys should be able to ask for whatever she wants politely. Sorrow agrees, and he immediately yells to call Aerys, who runs in, and asks her grandfather if he has spoken to Ruddy for her. Sorrow immediately tells her to ask by herself, and she uses the beast people's way of asking for something politely. When Ruddy becomes confused, the butler explains to him that they have been used to the beast people, and she's imitating their dropping hair pose to ask for a favor politely. A few days later, Ruddy begins to teach Aerys some spells, and in return, he gets instructions from Amelia on swordsmanship. As he practices with Aerys, he also teaches Amelia how to count and read. After a month of tutoring Aerys, she does not listen to any lessons from Ruddy and begins to look for her own way out. And he eventually sees her sleeping in a barn. Ruddy goes and he sees how beautiful Aerys is while sleeping, and he immediately begins to check the size of her cannons by grabbing it. As he tries to take off her underwear, Aerys wakes up and catches Ruddy in the act. She immediately punches him and beats him up. Ruddy goes to meet Amelia for help as he does not know how to handle Aerys. Then they both come up with a plan for Amelia to tell Aerys the story of how she suffered, as she was not able to read nor write. Aerys gets hooked and she immediately tells Ruddy to continue to teach her. The following day, Ruddy also continues his sword practice with Aerys and Amelia giving them instructions. Later that day, the three go to the city, and Ruddy begins to list the prices of what he is seeing, and he also teaches Amelia and Aerys some arithmetic. But on their way back, they tell Ruddy about the flying dragon home and how it is led by Paragus and his 12 servants. The next day, Aerys' brain begins to be more accommodating, and she becomes more serious with her studies. She gives Ruddy the aphrodisiac a trader had called him to buy the previous day, which he also looked at to be a good gift for his father. Aerys tells him that she got it for him as she looked as if he wanted it. Some months later, Aerys begins to train with Amelia, and Amelia tells her that she would soon increase in her rank, and she becomes very happy seeing that she has been working hard. yard. Ruddy then finishes the female statue he was building and he begins to look under it. He suddenly hears a knock at the door. He opens the door and he sees that it is Edna. Edna begins to tell him about Aerys's birthday party that is coming soon, and Ruddy sees that she wants her to have a good time at her party. Ruddy goes to the library with Philip and he tells him that he is free and would like to learn other languages. Mr. Philip sees that the book he has picked is in beast language, and he begins to tell Ruddy about all the benefits of studying the language. And he also tells him that he will have access to the beast girls. Ruddy begins to study the languages and he begins to panic as he sees that he cannot get them. Suddenly he hears a loud noise coming from outside and he immediately sees that it is Aerys. Edna then tells him that she has not gotten the hang of how to dance and is feeling bad. Ruddy goes after her and tries to convince her to resume her practice, and he promises to help her out. Aerys thinks about it for a while and she comes down from where she is and gives Ruddy a knock on his head and tells him to follow her. They begin to practice and Ruddy sees that she is going too fast and he tells her to slow down, but she tells him that he is slow and throws him across the room. Ruddy continues to study the work and he also helps Aerys to learn dancing, but he sees that he cannot understand the language. He then hears a knock at the door and he sees that he has gotten a letter from Roxy. He reads the letter and sees that he does not believe that his statue will get to her, and he goes back to continue teaching Aerys her dance. Edna sees that she has improved and tells her that she will show off with Ruddy, and Ruddy becomes worried. The party starts and Aerys is asked to dance with another boy and she accepts and they begin to dance. Aerys begins to go fast and they both fall down. They begin to mock her. Ruddy immediately steps in and tells them that they should dance as they have rehearsed. They begin to dance and Ruddy calms her down and he manages to impress the audience with a charm he used on her to make her dance. Edna becomes surprised and asks him how he was able to do it, and the other girls that are present immediately begin to ask him about his age. They go to bed and Ruddy wakes up and sees that Aerys is beside him and he tries to touch her melons. However, she ignores him and walks out. He sees a tower and decides to go in, and he hears that some people are working out in the tower and he goes to have a look. He sees that it is Sorrow and a maid, and Sorrow calls him to have a look at something and he sees a strange-looking circular ball in the sky. Sorrow prays that it won't be something bad. Ruddy sees that he did not like studying English in his old life, but studying other languages is very fun. He goes to watch Aerys in her training and he sees that she has moved to a higher rank in her training status. He begins to come out of the building and he sees that Aerys is hiding something and he goes to see what it is. He spies on them and he sees that she is preparing something for his birthday and he becomes surprised. He leaves the building and begins to think about all he has heard from Aerys and the maids. The following day he notices that everyone is busy and Amelia tells him that he has successfully learned 2 languages in 2 years. Ruddy then tells her that he wants to grab a snack and Amelia sees that he wants to go out and she finds a way to convince him to stay indoors. Ruddy sees that she will do anything to keep him inside and uses the opportunity to get her to open her pants for him. Amelia does it without hesitation and a maid comes in and sees them. Ruddy heads to the hall and he sees that they have set up a surprise party for him, and he immediately begins to cry. Everyone in the hall begins to pity him and Aerys' mother comes to him, giving him a hug that allows his face to get close to her melons. She tells him to marry Aerys as she plans to take good care of him, and they begin to drag her out. Aerys then gives Ruddy a staff as his gift, seeing that he is a mage, and she insists they carry on with the party. After the party, Ruddy begins to talk to Philip about the Boris family, and he insists that Ruddy take over by marrying Aerys. He then tells him that he will leave Aerys in his bed tied up, and Ruddy refuses. Later on, he begins to regret the decision, saying that he would have accepted it so that he would have his own maid. He sees that Aerys has gone to his room, and he begins to think about how his first time with her is going to be. She tells him that she will start light with him, but he took it too far by trying to touch her, causing her to beat him up. Aerys comes back to apologize and tells him to wait for 5 years before they can do such a thing, and Ruddy becomes excited. Ruddy's father tries to go for his son's birthday, and he sees that he's being held back by monsters and he decides to stay back. Ruddy goes to cast a spell far from the city to avoid any danger to the people in the city, and Ruddy notices a cloud. They see that it is a lot of mana, and it alerts a lot of powerful people to Ruddy's location, and they begin to head there in the flying castle. Paragus sends his most powerful servant to investigate. They are suddenly attacked by Almond Fee, the strongest Paragus servant. Amelia begins to block his attacks, seeing that he is after Ruddy, and they notice that the energy in the sky suddenly explodes, swallowing them up. Ruddy appears in another world, and he sees that he is in his old self. He begins to talk to the man god. The man god tells him that his mental and physical self are still okay, and Ruddy asks him what he can do. But the man god tells him that he is going to die as he is being caught up in a man's disaster. Ruddy becomes shocked and remembers that he is referring to the light that he got dragged into, and he asks him what he can do. The man god tells him that when he wakes up there will be a man, and he must rely on that man. Ruddy wakes up and sees that he is back to his normal form, and he sees Aerys sleeping beside him. He sees a man close to the fire, and he immediately introduces himself to him after noticing that he can speak the language. Henry hears Ruddy immediately ask where they are, and Henry begins to tell him about where he is. Ruddy sees that he is in the demon continent. Suddenly, Aerys wakes up and starts to shout. She begins to cry, and Henry tells Ruddy that it is a normal reaction when you see a super. Henry suddenly becomes nice to her and asks her if they can be friends, and she immediately agrees and they become friends overnight. Ruddy becomes surprised and he sees that he has to take her home. Aerys looks at the demon continent and she sees that it is the start of an adventure. She begins to walk and they immediately see that Henry has killed a monster. They begin to wonder how he knew it was there. He tells them that he can see the monsters coming with the third eye in his head, and he tells them that he does not like it. They arrive at the village, but Rowan refuses to let them go. Henry convinces him and he calls the chief to talk with them. The chief arrives and notices that they are polite, but notices the pendant on Ruddy's neck and asks him where he got it. Ruddy tells them that he got it from Roxy, and they become surprised as they are in her hometown. Her father then asks Ruddy if she is okay, and Ruddy tells him that she is fine. They only communicate through letters, and he takes him to where they would relax. They finish their meal and Henry is asked how they will get home. He tells the chief that he will protect the children with all he has until they get home. Ruddy then asks him about a war that makes everyone think that Henry is bad, and he begins to tell him an ancient story. Ruddy becomes surprised after the story. Ruddy promises to help him and promises to do all he can. The following day they begin to leave and Roxy's parents give him gifts, telling them that their daughter is safe. They begin their journey. They encounter monsters on their way and Aerys uses the sword given to them to take them out, and Ruddy tells her that she could have left it to them. They begin to eat and Ruddy sees that he needs to eat beef. They continue on their journey the following day and he sees that the security at a gate they plan on entering is very tight. They begin to wonder how Henry will go through the gate. Ruddy comes up with a plan. Ruddy immediately finds a way to carry him across, and they immediately go through the gates and they see how beautiful the city is. Ruddy sees that there will be an adventurers guild, and he sees that they will also need to make some money. They head to the adventurers guild, and Ruddy does a test to see if they would recognize Henry, and they begin to laugh at him, meaning that his disguise worked. They then sign up for the adventurers guild, and he sees that they cannot get jobs as they have not got to the desired rank. They immediately leave the guild, and Aerys begins to wonder why he did not take any job, as she is eager to slay a dragon. They continue to wander the city, and Ruddy decides that they should go and rest. He goes to an inn, and he goes to take a room for them. Suddenly, some other knee monsters who have come to join the guild immediately try to speak with Aerys, but she tears the clothes given to her by Ruddy and beats up one of the men. Ruddy immediately stops her and heals Kurt. Ruddy then goes to his room and falls asleep. He immediately sees the man God again, and the God tells him to rescue a kitten as it will solve all his worries. Ruddy immediately wakes up and he sees that Aerys is awake, and he sees that she is worried about how she will get home, and he goes to comfort her. Later, the following day, they set out to find the kitten, and with the help of Henry, they were able to find a cave. They head into the cave and they see that the cat is huge, and Ruddy sees that everything in the demon land is huge. Suddenly, those that captured the animals suddenly arrive, and Ruddy and Aerys team up to cage them. Ruddy then tries to ask them a question, and they immediately kick Ruddy. Ruddy becomes angry and beheads one of them, and Ruddy becomes shocked and asks him why he killed him. Ruddy warns him not to kill again, and he asks them to join them so that they will spare their lives. Henry becomes surprised at his offer and asks him why he would like to join the villains, and he tells him that he has a plan to rank up. Henry says he cannot work with villains, and Aerys begins to talk him out of it, but Ruddy tells her to stop talking. The following day, Ruddy tells them that they should complete a task and spread his group's name and make it look good. Roxy arrives at Ruddy's village and she hears that he is missing, and she goes to check the list of the dead. She sees that he is not there either, and she becomes happy. She sees some people talking about James, and she asks them if they know James, and she begins to talk to them. Meanwhile, Ruddy receives another task, and he is asked to slay a mysterious monster. Aerys becomes excited, and Ruddy sees that they will not have to worry about money for a while if the job is completed. Ruddy sees that the job is given out 3 times by the guild, and they begin to talk about what they will do, seeing that the other adventurers don't want them to get the prize. Ruddy then decides to follow the other adventurers and help them only when things get too dangerous. He immediately sees that the adventurers are in trouble and warns Rard not to help, as things are not yet desperate. Ruddy sees that his plan to rescue them at the last minute did not work, as one of their members is dead from that attack of the spider in the anaconda. Henry then asks Ruddy why he was stopped, as he would have saved him, and they begin to argue. Kurt hurriedly goes to stop them, as Ruddy begins to feel bad for making a wrong decision. They follow the adventurers until they leave and continue on their own journey. They suddenly hear a noise and quickly hurry to the scene to see what is happening, and they see that it is a redwood cobra. They begin to wonder what it is looking for in that kind of forest. Ruddy then decides that they stop the monster, and Aerys sees that her sword cannot affect the cobra as they begin to battle the monster to save the adventure. They take down the cobra successfully, and Ruddy realizes that they were too late to save the adventure. On their way back from the city, they meet with another adventurer who has detected that they have been trading jobs to earn more money and boost their ranks. He immediately demands half of what they earn every month if they want him to keep quiet so that their licenses will not be taken away. Ruddy begins to think of what he can do, but Henry immediately washes the coloring off his hair and reveals his true identity. He then warns him not to revoke their licenses, as they will be leaving their city. Henry immediately drops him, and because of the soldiers in the city, he immediately leaves the city. Ruddy immediately goes to apologize to him, as he was more focused on making money, and Henry forgives him. The following morning, Henry shaves his head, and they begin to wonder what he has done to his head. He tells them that his hair scares people, and that that is why he has cut it. Ruddy sees it as a good idea and he immediately begins their first official meeting. A year later, Aerys becomes 13 years old and Ruddy takes her to an ocean, but on getting there, Aerys becomes surprised and excited. She also tastes the water and tells Ruddy that it is salty. She tells him that she is going to swim in the water, and Ruddy asks her how she's going to do that as she has no bathing suit. Aerys replies to Ruddy that she does not need a bathing suit, but as Aerys begins to take off her clothes, Henry tells Aerys that it is not advisable for her to swim in the ocean. Ruddy and the rest meet a man who asks them if they are called the Dead End, but Ruddy feels suspicious, and he looks back as if he had seen someone he knows. After asking the man if he can get them a passage to the destination they are headed to, the man replies that it would cost them the sum of 2,000 green coins, and Ruddy becomes shocked on hearing this. While eating, Ruddy holds a meeting with Aerys and Henry as they discuss money. Then, Aerys asks Ruddy if they are going to leave Henry behind because of the money, but Ruddy tells her that they are not leaving him. Aerys apologizes to Ruddy, and Aerys immediately tells Ruddy that she would try to think of what they can do, and Ruddy tells them that they should all think of a solution and report back the following day. That night, Ruddy begins to think of what to do and how he would get them out of their situation, but as he falls asleep he begins to dream, and in his dream he has a conversation with a god. The god tells him to buy food from a food vendor, and walk through the back alley as there is a surprise waiting for him. The following morning, Henry and Aerys go to train as Aerys tries to defeat Henry, but at the end of the training she becomes excited as she is able to hit Henry once. Ruddy goes to do what the god had told him, then he sees a woman with colored hair and he immediately remembers Roxy, and he begins to wonder what Roxy is doing. Ruddy gets to the alley, and he sees a beggar asking for food and also complaining about not being able to eat after reincarnating. Then he tells himself that it must be the surprise the god was talking about. Ruddy gives the beggar food. After eating the food aggressively, the beggar jumps and reveals herself. Then Ruddy sees her that she is a demon, and she immediately introduces herself as Anna and adds that she is the great emperor of the demon world. Ruddy bows to Anna, and she becomes happy and gives him a demon eye in exchange for his loyalty. But on getting to their she's, Ruddy explains to Henry and Aerys about his encounter with Anna. The following day, Ruddy practices his swordsmanship with Aerys using his new demon eye, and he is able to defeat Aerys. But at the end of the match, she becomes angry that he is good at everything. After the duel, Ruddy tells himself that he should be able to defeat Henry with his new demon eye. A few moments later, he ends up beaten badly by Henry. That night, Ruddy begins to think of what he is doing, and he tells himself that he is not supposed to be powering himself up, as he is supposed to bring Aerys home. Then, Ruddy decides to go and sell his staff so that he would be able to get money to transport them to their destination. Henry suddenly stops Ruddy and he tries to lie, but Henry catches him. He thanks him for helping him as he is charged much for being his super. He also tells Ruddy that he would help him, and after having the discussion, a man suddenly comes to meet them, and Ruddy recognizes the man as the person he had helped the previous day. The man introduces himself as Gas Cleaner. Then he tells them that he wanted to thank Ruddy for helping him. Alina sits in a bar filled with men along with two-handed Roxy. Then she begins to admire the men, and Roxy reminds her that it is not the reason they are in the place. Then she goes to meet some men and asks them questions, but Roxy begins to look at her, and she tries to show some skin just like Alina. Roxy talks to Tand and Alina about James, and she also asks them what he was like when they were in the same group. They tell her that he was a rascal. The three go back to their room and they begin to discuss the new group they learned of. They'd also talk about how the group may be due to their name and the description given to them. Before going to bed, Roxy reviews their plans to Tand and Alina as she tells them that they are looking for James's family. Then Alina tells her that Lily would be okay as she is a retired S-ranked adventurer, and also adds that Ruddy would not be hard to find as he always stands out. She then tells them that they need to find Lilia. Next morning, peeping on the people that are the supposed dead end, Roxy becomes scared of the super, and she immediately runs for her life back to the end. Then she sees Alina working out with 5 men. The following day, they all move to another city, as Alina explains to Roxy how she needed to work out with 5 men. Gallas agrees to transport Henry in exchange for a little favor, but while on the boat with Aerys, Ruddy begins to think of dirty things in his mind if he were to be alone with Aerys. But he is interrupted as Aerys becomes seasick, and she begins to vomit. As they get to their destination, Ruddy tells Aerys that he has to go and take Henry, but Ruddy explains to Aerys how he has controlled himself from his dirty thoughts before he heads out. On getting to where Henry is, he informs Ruddy about the beast children the men had taken captive and how they have to save them. Then Ruddy agrees and Henry turns and shows his real self. Then he begins to kill the guards while Ruddy goes to save the 5 beast children. As they go outside, one of the girls tells Ruddy that they did not save the sacred beast that was captured with them, and Ruddy volunteers to go and rescue the beast. But on getting there, Ruddy releases the dog and he begins to feel the dog's fur. Then another beast man comes and uses his power to make Ruddy unable to move his body parts, including his mouth. Beast man then takes Ruddy and the dog, who is said to be a sacred beast, back to their village. Then he tells Ruddy that he does not know the kind of punishment waiting for him. Back in the village, Ruddy begins to tell himself that he is innocent. Ruddy is taken to prison where he is given food, but he begins to make fun of himself as he recounts all the attributes of the prison in a positive manner. A lady comes to meet Ruddy in the prison, and as he sees her, he immediately tells her that he is innocent, but the lady insults him and pours cold water on his face. Ruddy begins to think of what to do as they have stripped and naked, leaving his rice cakes and sausage exposed. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more. Peace out.